Galway 124, Dublin 227. Dublin have beaten Galway in their own backyard, and Dublin have eliminated Galway from the All-Ireland Senior Hurling Championship. What a day, what a win, what a time to be alive for Dublin fans up and down the country, and obviously here in the great Isle capital as well. What a win. What a fucking win that was for Dublin. Happy days. It doesn't get much better than that. It does not get much better than that, unless we go and beat Kilkenny in a couple of weeks' time. But look, we won't worry about that for now, and we'll obviously discuss that when it comes around. But look, what a win. What a win for Dublin. I backed Dublin coming into this game. I just had that feeling that we would have enough. And look, the red card was very questionable. We'll get to that. It probably did have quite a bearing on the game. Like, would Dublin have won the game if that red card didn't happen? I'm not entirely sure, to be honest with you. The way the game was going, you probably feel like Galway had Dublin right there and then up until that red card. But look, aside from that, a famous win for Dublin. Pretty sure it's the first time in the championship we've beaten Galway in Salt Hill. It's obviously the first time we've beaten Galway since 2021. And we've got a really, really good record against Galway. Drew with them last season. You think back to 2019, we beat them obviously that day and eliminated them from the championship. Funnily enough, obviously that was the Micheál Donoghue who was in charge of Galway that time around as well, which, you know, kind of adds to the storyline a little bit. But yeah, huge win for Dublin. I was semi-watching the Kilkenny Wexford game as well. Obviously that was on GA Go, so I was trying to watch both games at the same time. But obviously I was mainly focused on this game as a Dublin fan. And yeah, look, we'll discuss the Kilkenny Wexford game as we go along as well. But yeah, look, it was an interesting game. I think, like, first half, I thought Dublin were actually very poor. I think we were actually very lucky to only be, I think, 2 points down at half-time. You know, like, we got the early goal, obviously, from Sean Curry, or, like, happy days. Like, Galway obviously got the first score, I think, from Gavin Lee. Then Sean Curry gets the goal, and you're thinking, right, happy days. Dublin have started strong. We have Galway on the back foot. We kept trying to play, like, the short hand passes, like, very Limerick-esque style of hurling is the way I'd call it. In terms of how we were trying to play, obviously, I'm not comparing Dublin to Limerick. Don't get that twisted by any stretch of the imagination. Just in the way that we were trying to play, with the flicks off the wrist, the short hand passes, and everything else, and it just wasn't really working. Like, the ball kept on breaking down. Galway consistently kept turning us over. We couldn't get Ronan Hayes in the game, couldn't really get Sutcliffe in the game. And Galway were picking us off. Like, I think they hit 7 unanswered points from Fergal Whiteley's point for Dublin on the 3rd minute, right up until Donald Burke's free on the 15th minute. So, like, Galway were all over us at that stage. And, like, they were missing big chances as well. Like, I remember Evan Nyland hit a few chances wide. Conor Cooney had a few wides at that stage as well. So it was a little bit unusual. Like, that was the moment right there and then where Galway had to put us to the sword, because Galway were playing we're playing with the breeze in the first half. Dublin were playing against the breeze, and it was fairly evident from watching this game how strong the conditions were. I mean, for God's sake, the whole connection cut off for about 10 minutes in the second half, and you know, that was a little bit bizarre as well. You don't see that happen too often, but and I've seen far worse conditions in Galway, to be fair. But anyway, yeah, so Galway were on top there, and then obviously the red card happens from David Burke. It is a high challenge. It's a hard one. Like, you can understand the referee, Calm Lines, for giving a red card. The problem is that happens so often in hurling, in football, and it's not given as a red card. There was a near identical challenge in the Dublin-Kilkenny game last week that nothing happened. I think it was a yellow card. And in this game, he gives a red. And, like, you see a lot of them challenges. Like, it was high. It wasn't to his face, but it looked kind of around the upper chest. It's a hard one, really. If that happened to a Dublin player, I would have been very annoyed. I won't lie. I would have been very disappointed and pissed off or whatever. It's just a little bit unfortunate. Like, early on in the game, 16 minutes in, Galway were always going to be up against it after that, because, like, when you're a man down and then obviously you have the second half to come when you're playing against the breeze, Dublin had the impetus. And in the first half for Dublin, it was just about sticking in the game and getting through it. And look, we took our goal chances. Donald Burke obviously gets a goal towards the end of the half. At Galway, you felt like always we're just ticking along nicely in the first half. Keenan Fahy was having a very good game. And then the second half rolls around. And, like, with Dublin now playing with the breeze, and you could see how evident the breeze was, because, you know, Dublin and Galway, when they were playing with the breeze, were able to score from, you know, 60, 70 yards, where when you were going against the breeze, you had to work the ball in. You had to work it in. You weren't able to take chances. And I think Galway Galway saw that happen very often. And look, Dublin kicked on. Chris Crummy again, absolutely outstanding performance from him. 4 points. I think he's been arguably Dublin's best player in the championship this year. Donald Burke 110. Could have potentially worked more goal chances. Could have had more opportunities here and there. But yeah, massive win from a Dublin perspective. For Galway, like, they were a man down, but they just felt very toothless towards the end. Like, they obviously got that goal late on from the substitute Declan McLaughlin, but like, they never really worked any other goal chances. Obviously, like, they were playing against the breeze and everything else. It was tough conditions out there, and it probably picked up and actually got worse in the second half, which probably favoured Dublin. But it was tough for Galway. Like, they needed to do something a little bit different. I thought they were very one-dimensional. They kept giving the ball away, and it became very easy for Dublin. Like, Dublin weren't really under a huge amount of pressure. When the goal went in from McLaughlin, you were a little bit worried, and you were thinking, maybe Galway might get something here. But I thought it was very, very comfortable for Dublin, and I think that's going to be the big worry for Galway. And ultimately for Galway, this game wasn't why Galway got knocked out of the championship, in my opinion. Like, they got beaten very comfortable by Wexford. They couldn't beat Kilkenny when Kilkenny were on their legs and, on their knees, really. Like, they had so many players out that day, couldn't beat them. And ultimately, like, for Galway, their only championship wins have come against Antrim and come against Carlow, and you look at it, arguably a soft enough red card in the Galway Antrim game. Similar scenario, really. Galway kicked on and won that. Wexford were down to 14 men going into the final, 15-20 minutes against Galway. Galway didn't capitalise on that. So, like, they've got maybe a bit of bad luck with the red card, but ultimately, it's the other games I think that Galway can look back at with huge regret, because, yeah, they're out of championship. You'd have to feel Henry Shefflin's days are numbered as Galway manager from here. Like, where do Galway go from here? It's a massive blow. Like, they've gone from, being beaten in Leinster finals narrowly and losing in the All-Ireland semi-finals to Limerick, to being completely out of championship, and, to not beat Wexford when they've a new manager coming in, vulnerabilities after them losing to Antrim, and then not be able to beat Dublin as well at home. It's not a good look from a Wexford perspective, but absolutely huge for Dublin, in fairness. Like, Donald Burke, outstanding. Brian Hayes was absolutely brilliant. And, like, can Dublin beat Kilkenny in a couple of weeks' time? You'd have to imagine Kilkenny are the favourites. Croke Park, it'd be very tough to beat Kilkenny there, in fairness. But look, we get the opportunity, we get the chance, and it's absolutely great to see. A2 says, "Come on, you boys in blue." Mikey says, "Time for Shefflin to go." Yeah, I think he's on the way out. A2 says, "I think it was a red. We took advantage of it. Should have won by more. Delighted. Bring on the Cats finally. Some progress being made." And On Far says, "Richly deserved that. Dubs have been knocking on the door and we're unlucky against the Cats. Up the small ballers." Absolutely. Yeah. Liam says it was a destruction for Dublin. I never felt Galway were going to win or come close to winning today. The red card will be used as an excuse. Yeah, I think it probably will be. And look, I think Galway probably should have had a penalty in the first half as well. But look, Dublin won quite comfortably in the end. It wasn't like Dublin just scraped over the line. And I don't even think Dublin played that well in the first half, to be honest with you. Like, the amount of city balls we were giving away, city wides as well. It was obviously tough playing against the breeze, as we said before, but like, Dublin weren't at their best in the first half, I felt, and Galway should have put the foot on the pedal. And like, even at times when Dublin were taking puck outs, like, especially in the first half, there wasn't a Galway man in sight. It was so easy for Sean Brennan to take his puck outs in the first half. And yes, Galway are a man down, but Dublin, like, with that breeze against you, you're not going to be able to fly the ball 80, 90 yards. You know what I mean? So press up. That was the time for Galway to build up a lead, and they couldn't do it. And ultimately, you knew in the second half it was always going to be tough for them. It will be Kilkenny that Dublin play in the Leinster final. Like, I was kind of keeping an eye on the game. Obviously, very, very close. Like, finished as a 1-point win for Kilkenny. Obviously, Wexford getting a goal in the first half from Conor McDonald. Wexford looked to be the better side in the first half, in fairness. Kilkenny did get a dodgy enough penalty. There's no doubt about that. Like, I didn't really get it. Like, the ref doesn't even give a black card as well, which is a little bit unusual. I do think Kilkenny were robbed of a penalty though in the first half. I think it was Mikey Carey who I think might have been running through, or maybe it was Mossy Keown actually, and he was pulled back and the ref gave a free, but it was clearly a goal scoring opportunity there. So maybe that kind of balanced itself out. You could arguably say, but yeah, massive win for Kilkenny. Disappointed Wexford didn't do it though, because a Dublin Wexford Leinster final, like what a novel final that would have been. And you know, like I would be more confident in us beating Wexford than beating Kilkenny, because we have beaten Wexford in recent years, whereas Kilkenny we haven't. You know that way. But look, Kilkenny done what they do. They stick in games. They get over the line. Maybe not playing their absolute best. You know, but Paddy Deegan, brilliant, 3 points from him. TJ Reid 113. Owen Cody on the score sheet. Richie Reid on the score sheet. But look, Wexford do go through, so that's the most important thing. We don't have a live table here, but it is Dublin and Kilkenny in the Leinster final. Wexford will be in third. So like their championship isn't over. At least, you know, at least with the defeat, they are still alive. They are still in it. But it will be Galway who exits the championship. Acre says here, Galway County Board has pumped more funding into the footballers than the hurling side. Gavin says Dublin hurling could be serious building. Have to feel for Wexford with that final spot going to Dublin seemed very tight. Yeah, look, I mean, it's known that Dublin obviously have plenty of resources and everything else, and you know our club players are brilliant. Underage is very, very good. Like obviously in 2013 there was a huge boost in Dublin and won the Leinster title. Felt like Dublin were going to kick on and be regular challengers in the All-Ireland. Just never really happened. Look, this could be a one-off. 2021 Dublin got to a Leinster final as well. Got beaten out the gate really by Kilkenny and hadn't came close really up until this year. So it's hard to really know. Like the under 20s are going all right. Minors are doing quite well as well. So look, there is serious potential there with Dublin. Football is always going to be number one, no doubt about that. But look, it's great to see. Absolutely great to see. A2 says no better time to end the hoodoo against Kilkenny. Yeah, look, and Kilkenny are beatable. They definitely are beatable. Like Wexford had them on the ropes on numerous times in this game. Dublin had Kilkenny on the ropes in Parnell Park. But look, I think all in all, like it's great to just have a Leinster final for Dublin. Do you know what I mean? Because you know, I think we're probably bored of seeing the footballers win it at this stage. So at least let's try and get the hurlers to win it. And look, it'll be a great day. No doubt I'll be going to the game. Should be a good attendance as well. So look, it'll be an absolutely cracking game in fairness. And Kilkenny will be the favourites, no doubt about that. But at least Dublin did show in that game in Parnell Park they can be competitive. And I think there is still improvements for this Dublin side, no doubt about it. We'll see what happens with Cian O'Sullivan, who's obviously injured as well. He needs to obviously come back into the team still. But yeah, ultimately, you know, very disappointing for Galway. I'll be curious to know what Galway fans think about it. Like Conor Whelan, just 1 point from him, all-star last year, really struggled, not really in the game. Conor Cooney was fairly irrelevant. I felt for large parts. I think Keenan Fahy, probably the only real player, you know, who really impressed. I thought Jason Flynn and Gavin Lee a decent game as well. Evan Nyland wasn't too bad. But yeah, Henry Shefflin, I don't think he survives this. Like, this is year 3. So you couldn't imagine he'll be there next year. You know, especially with his allegiances to Kilkenny and everything else. You'd imagine, you know, he'll be gone. But crazy the Leinster Championship. You know, everybody thought it was going to be Kilkenny Galway in the final, and Dublin have shook up the odds. So let me know in the comments down below. Man of the match for me would be Chris Crummy, no doubt about that in my opinion. But let me know your man of the match in the comments down below. Obviously, the Munster Hurling Championship has just thrown in, so we will be back after those games. And until then, hit the like button and subscribe if you could. We'll speak to you all in the next.